Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Big Guy Fantasy Sports Fantasy Football Consistency Show. We're here for your Week 4 review, Week 5 preview. As always, I'm Bob Lung, Big Guy Fantasy Sports. And as you see, it's time to bring the consistency, baby. Ron knows where I'm going with this one. And on my right, of course, is the one, the only, from Florida, Ron Rigney. And it's Sam Howell season. Yeah, damn right it is. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah, it's definitely Sam Howell season for Mr. Bob Lung here, and he'll get into that a little bit later. But rough week for the consistently cashing. Didn't get you money this week. We barely got nudged out. That big gain that Herbert and Palmer had nudged us out of the money, but you guys still killing it with the prop bets. So there's that going. And man, I just watched my Rays get bounced from the postseason for the second straight year. Not sure what happens to my Rays, man. They play great through the regular season and make the playoffs. They're the little engine that could, and then they get to the postseason and they're the little engine that cannot. They did not score a run in 2 games against Texas, man. It's rough. It's rough. So not a run, not a run. And they forget how to pitch too. They're normally supposed to be one of the best rotations and bullpens in the league, and they forget how to do that too. So I'm not sure what happens in the postseason to my Rays, but that just happened a little bit ago. So let's transition fully 100% into football mode.
Yeah, well, all I can say is the Indians or Guardians. I call them the Indians. They will always be the Indians. Didn't make it. And the funny thing was, the sad thing is I heard that like Tampa Bay didn't even sell out the games, their playoff game. And I'm like, man, if Cleveland makes playoffs, you scalping tickets for $1,000 a piece.
Well, they showed all the different attendance levels, and I think everybody was like upper 20s into the 30s. Most of them, I think, were in the 30s, and then you've got Tampa down here at 19,000. And somehow they've gotten the okay to build a new stadium there right around St. Pete. So really? I'm not sure how that works, but yeah. So I don't know. Baseball just for some reason does not do well in Florida. I guess it's because everybody's from somewhere else, and they're Yankee and Red Sox and whatever else fans, and maybe that's it. I don't know.
But still, a good team's a good team. Man.
Yeah, man, they put a great product on the field. It's a lot of fun to go. I don't know why people don't go.
Usually with a pretty limited budget. So interesting. Yeah, no, I hear you. But so as we get started here and start looking at the consistency numbers, we're into our week 4. So, a little, almost a third of the season, fourth of the season is done. Yeah, I guess it's fourth of the season now, isn't it? Fourth of the season done. So our first month is in here in the books, and we've only got 3 100% quarterbacks: Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, which is probably a surprise to many, at 100%, 4 for 4, and at 3 for 3. Ron is the guy you're going to talk about. Tell us about your boy, as you call him, AR5.
Yeah, we can't call him AR-15 anymore because he doesn't wear that number 15. But yeah, Anthony Richardson, man, and he's a guy that I had as a backup in a couple places, and already in week 4, we're almost a quarter of the way done with the season, and we have those bye weeks starting to set in. And Anthony Richardson's a guy that I'm bringing off the bench to start above a couple others, and they've got Tennessee this week. That Tennessee-Indianapolis game, that division game, is always tough. You know how Tennessee plays. But they've allowed some points to quarterbacks. They've allowed over 1,000 yards, but they haven't allowed a ton of touchdowns. They've only allowed 5 passing scores. Where I get worried a little bit about this is they've only allowed a handful of points to rushing quarterbacks. And so that gives me a little bit of pause, but I feel like, and they were talking about him on NFL radio the other day, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been Jim Miller, said with his ability to be able to make a big play at any possible given time on the field, you can, as a coach, you can kind of look past that 6 for 16 passing that he had. But in those 6 completions, I think he had something like 200 yards passing, and then he ran, was able to run it. I mean, the dude's a freak, and if he can learn to play this game, it's scary what he's going to be able to do. But I think here again, with some of those bye weeks setting in, there's not a ton of byes this week. But I like that Titans matchup. I think he's going to be able to get it to Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman has kind of shown some life and looked like what we thought he was going to look like previously. They've got a couple of guys at tight end. They've got Zach Moss in the backfield. So, and plus, I think that as good as Anthony Richardson is, as good as that Titans defense is against the run, I think that you're kind of seeing Shane Steichen be able to put him in positions to make plays. He's 3 for 3 consistency-wise as well because he's been doing it with his legs. And I think that I don't see any reason that he can't get you another clutch game. I'm not expecting huge numbers here, but I think it's going to be a solid enough start in this division game where he's going to get you enough during that clutch game.
Well, and hopefully maybe our boy Jonathan Taylor will be back this week, helping out the running game, and at least
That would help.
we know Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee's second in giving up the fewest fantasy points to running backs, so they certainly are very tough against the run. A little bit less, obviously, not as good against the pass, but not as bad as we thought either.
Right, better than I expected.
Yeah, because Cincinnati didn't do anything against them, whether Joe Burrow's hurt or not. So, yeah, definitely a big difference there. And speaking of bye weeks, hey. Our boy Justin Herbert, who we just loved and shared about, and who I have on many, 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 many teams, in fact, I have in both Kings Classic, Oxen, and Snake, I have Justin Herbert as my starting quarterback. So guess what? He's not playing. So I had to go to the waiver wire, and there were two quarterbacks that were available actually on both leagues. One was Josh Dobbs, and I almost picked him in both. Wasn't sure. I didn't bid a lot on. I think I may have even put both in as one of those. If I get one, I'm out. But I did not, and I picked up, as your little tagline says there, Sam Howell in both leagues. I think I paid $4 or $5 because most people aren't starting Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson, or he's already out anyway. So there wasn't a need. So I guess it was easy to get him for that kind of price tag, but. I am rolling with Sam Howell. Guess what, kids? He's put up 3 out of 4 clutch games. He's currently 17th in total points, but not doing a bad job. A lot of people have kind of not been real high on him, and I get it. He's not going to set the world on fire. They're going to run the ball first. They've got Robinson and Antonio Gibson, but I think the key this week is they're playing against the Chicago Bears, who happen to rank 29th against quarterbacks and giving up the most fantasy points. So they are definitely who I'm hoping will continue that trend. And they are playing at home, so that helps as well. We just hope and pray that the weather cooperates in Washington, so it's not like it has been in some of these other weekend games. But, yep, we're rolling Sam Howell season 1 week and hope we don't have to have him again. Justin Herbert stays healthy the rest of the year, but yeah, he banged up that finger, but he also had the finger banged up and taped up, and he still threw a big touchdown or big pass in that game to win. So don't think that's going to bother him. So are you as excited for the Sam Howell season in 1 week that I am?
Luckily, even though with some of the buys and injuries I've had, I think we were talking about this before in the Kings Classic Snake, I've been rolling with the combo of CJ Stroud and Baker Mayfield, which has surprisingly been pretty consistent and been pretty solid for my team. Yeah. But I would not be opposed to starting him anywhere if I needed a quarterback. And, I always love him throwing to my guy, Terry Targets, who I think is one of the more underrated receivers in the National Football League.
Yeah, that's for sure. And so, like I said, I will be definitely keeping an eye on that game this weekend to see how that goes, because if it goes poorly, I could be in trouble. But I'm hoping if he can earn me a nice little 20-point quality game for both, I'd be giddy. That's all I'm asking. Doesn't have to set the world on fire. Doesn't have to throw 4 touchdowns. Nothing. Just give me 20 points for both leagues, and that's good enough for me. And that should, help my team. That's all. All I'm looking for is a little bit of a clutch game. So let's move into the running back position, and we still have 5 running backs who are perfectly 100% consistent, to nobody's surprise, and who has a 30-point lead on everybody after 4 weeks is our own CMC, Christian McCaffrey, just crushing it. I should have listened to John Lynch, and I just should have grabbed him in every league that I went and got Jamar Chase instead. But Jamar's going to come back. I'm feeling it. It's just a matter of time. But some surprises in the other 4. Kenneth Walker III. I mean, we expected Kenneth Walker to be good. He's 5th in total points, 4 for 4. I think a lot of people had a lot of love for Zach Charbonnet, which doesn't seem to be working out for well. Of course, the rookie sensation, Bijan Robinson, has been good enough. 6th in total points, 4 for 4 as well. David Montgomery, 3 for 3 after he missed that one game. 9th in total points. And James Cook at 4 for 4. But, Ron, you're going to talk about a veteran who some people may be surprised is doing better than what we think from a consistency standpoint.
Yeah, and unless you have him on your team, he's really not being mentioned and lighting it up like he did a season ago, and that's Josh Jacobs. And I think just a little bit little bit of slowness out of the gate there. That second week, especially on the ground, -2 yards is not what you're looking for in your fantasy squad. But he did have 5 grabs for 51 yards that week. He's got a couple of games where he's caught the ball well out of the backfield. Last week, 8 for 81. Now, a lot of that had to do with Aiden O'Connell checking down. But I still think with him being out there, he's going to be a part of the offense no matter what. In 3 out of 4 games, he's gotten at least 17 carries, gotten you 62 and 58 yards the last couple of weeks, finally got in the end zone last week. And as we were talking about this, I kind of had a little bit of reservation about it because I didn't feel that great because they're going against Green Bay. But lo and behold, Green Bay is the 5th worst team in the league so far against the run, which I never would have thought. That's supposed to be one of Green Bay's strengths. They've allowed 461 yards, 4 scores, but where they've really allowed a lot is they've allowed 26 receptions out of the backfield, the running backs, for 180 yards. So that made me like that matchup a little bit better. And I think we know no matter who is at quarterback, that offense, I know Devontae Adams is out there, but that offense has got to go through Josh Jacobs if they want any chance to win any football games. And you're starting him no matter what, but here again, 3 for 4, had that one kind of clunker of a game, but he's still catching the ball well, still doing everything you want him to do. I'd like to see him get in the end zone a little bit more, but definitely has the opportunity to throw up a clutch game here against a Green Bay defense that's not as good as we originally thought they were.
That's for sure. Yeah, no, it's like you said, the running back position's been a little bit messy so far, but this is why this consistency information is so important, so that folks like out there and those that are listening, reading, if you're not subscribed, do so. Get one, get it, get on there, and check out the stuff like this consistency report and this trend report that shows you stuff. So because even though this wasn't the guy I was going to talk about, I want to talk about Alexander Madison real quick. He's 3 for 4, and he's 20th in total points. And everybody was pretty much down on this guy. Surrey had a slow start, but their offensive line was really struggling. They seemed to have put it together. But even though he's 20th in total points, he's 3 for 4 with clutch game, 75% consistency rating, which is tied with Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Brian Robinson, DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, those kind of guys. So don't give up on Madison. I think it's coming around. If you get a chance maybe to trade for him, now would be the time to do it. They seem to be, Cam Akers is there, but I think Cam Akers was just maybe what he needed. The fire lit up his butt. But the guy I wanted to talk about is James Cook, who is 4 for 4, 12th in total points consistency-wise. Like I said, one of the few that are still perfectly consistent. And the thing about James Cook is that, he's probably not going to have a 30-point week. His points so far, 10.3, 13.2, 14.7. His big week was week 2 against the Raiders when he had 123 yards rushing and 4 catches for 36 when he almost scored 20. I think that's his ceiling. But the nice thing is I think that with his dual backfield performance of running and catching, I think he's always going to get that 10 to 15 points. And that's what we want out of our guy. So, again, somebody out there maybe has Cook as a third guy, go out and grab him, because I think he could continue to add some value as a consistent, maybe not high ceiling, but consistent running back. So let's move on to the wide receiver position. Quite a few up at the top. No surprise. Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Puka Nacua, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, all at 100% consistent 4 for 4. Ron, there's somebody at 1 for 1 because it's the first game he played. He's back. He didn't set the world on fire, but he showed that he's got the speed. He's ready to go. And who are we talking about?
So we're talking about Christian Watson for those Green Bay Packers that we talked about just a little bit ago here with the Josh Jacobs pick. And Christian Watson only got a clutch game because he caught that touchdown, but was targeted 4 times coming off the hamstring injury. I'm hoping that's fully healed because, man, that hamstring, that's something that you got to make sure you get right when you get out there. But I love Christian Watson. The guy's a freak athlete. They need him in that offense because Romeo Doubs has done a decent job, but I don't think he's a true wide receiver 1 just yet. I think Christian Watson has every chance to be that. I think they want to get him the ball. I think they're going to be smart enough to get him the ball. And in that Raiders matchup, the Raiders haven't been as bad as you might think against fantasy wide receivers. They rank 12th there, so kind of middle of the pack, but they have allowed 6 passing touchdowns to wide receivers. And that without a consistent, they have those rookie tight ends there, without a consistent option, they're going to be looking Christian Watson's way in the red zone. And he's going to get back on track. A guy that I thought was great value in drafts. I think I got him in one league, in a 12-team league. I think he's like my wide receiver 3, which I don't know how that happened, but it did. And I'm love to see him back. But I think Jordan Love's going to have to call his number early and often to get that offense going, no matter who they're playing, not just this week. It might be a little easier against the Raiders. But nonetheless, I think there's going to be numbers there. And I look to see him get way more than 4 targets in that offense per game heading forward.
Yeah, I think you will too. And I mean, I think they have a nice combo there. Romeo Doubs has certainly been a great underneath guy, kind of a nice safety blanket, maybe a Cooper Kupp type of player where Watson will spread the field and keep defenses honest. And that's a good thing because then as those guys start spread that field out, now that opens up the running game. We get Aaron Jones back in 100% healthy this week. That will help some of my teams as well, which I'd be happy to see. The guy I'm going to talk about is, we talked a little bit about Josh Dobbs early and how he's actually been doing fairly well. But, what also may surprise some people is a guy like Marquise Brown, who we pretty much all left for dead. Probably got him as maybe your wide receiver 3, might even got him as late as your wide receiver 4, because we didn't know who was going to throw to him at the time. Is it going to be Colt McCoy? Is it going to be, Zach Wilson? Who knows? We don't even know. Zach could have got traded. But anyway, we just didn't know who was going to be throwing the ball. Well, of course, they went out and got Josh Dobbs from the Steelers, moved him over into the starting lineup because they weren't real comfortable with who they had. And Marquise Brown didn't do much first week, 3 straight clutch games, 17th in total points, playing home against Cincinnati this week, who has been struggling against the pass as well. I think this is a good matchup for him. And again, talk about consistency. Since Dobbs kind of really started kicking in here, he's went 17.4, 17.1, 16.6. Can't get much closer, more consistent than that of your weeks matched week by week. So definitely like Marquise Brown this week. And, again, look at the consistency report that's out there. There are some surprising wide receivers at 3 for 4. And I'll just highlight a couple. Adam Thielen, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, believe it or not, actually showing some consistency, and Michael Thomas, in addition to some of the other people that are out there. Actually, DJ Moore's in that list, which a lot of people would never have thought of because of the slow start that Chicago has had. But he's been doing good enough, and that's what we want. We need that consistency and get that out of him. All right, let's move into the tight end position. Very quickly, we're down to only 3 100%. And yes, Travis Kelce is one of them. He's 3 for 3, of course, since he's came back. But the other two, Evan Ingram, still kind of a surprise. 5th in total points, 100% consistent. But the guy at number 2, I know there's a lot of people that was in love with this guy. And I don't know. I just find it, it's very difficult for me to grasp onto rookie tight ends. But Sam Laporta, 2nd in total points, perfect 4 for 4. Boy, he's really, for anybody who drafted him, which I did not, sadly, he is kicking some butt, that's for sure. No, I take that back. I have him in the SiriusXM Dynasty League. When I did the draft, I grabbed Laporta because I was like at the end of the thing, and I was like, oh, I might as well. But the funny thing is I have David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Laporta on my team. And it's doing very well. It's like 3-1. So
nice.
Pretty exciting. However, at 3 for 4, 75% consistent, there are quite a few interesting names in this group. Ron, you're going to talk about one of them, and I think anybody who's listening is probably going to be a little bit surprised as we talk about this top Atlanta Falcons tight end, and it is not Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, not who you thought we were going to talk about. It's a guy by the name of Jonnu Smith. Do you remember him being fantasy relevant not all that long ago?
Yeah.
We forget this guy was a dude in Tennessee. He was a dude at the end of his time in San Francisco, took the money in New England. Of course, when you go to New England, you do whatever Bill Belichick tells you to do. So if he tells you to block, you block. Right. And so that's pretty much what Jonnu Smith did for a couple of years. But lo and behold, he's back and he is fantasy relevant again. And, I saw an article today. I've seen articles numerous places about begging the Atlanta Falcons, please trade Kyle Pitts. You don't deserve him. You don't use him. I don't know what's going on there, but I'd love to see my Colts swoop in and see what they could get
Yeah,
old
you
Kyle
only have
Pitts for.
17 tight ends there.
But we don't have a Kyle Pitts though. That's what
No,
we
you
don't have.
right.
But man, it's a head scratcher there. But hey, if you were able to pluck Jonnu Smith off of waivers, because I'm gonna be pretty sure here that you did not draft Jonnu Smith in most formats.
Right.
Like we said, 3 for 4 consistent. Has seen 6 targets every week. Saw 8 targets against the Lions. 95 yards last week. You know, he had that clunker week 1, but ever since then, he's been the guy at tight end they've looked towards. And coming into this week, has a pretty solid matchup. I lost it here. Who's he even playing? Man, I had it here and I lost it. Texans. Middle of the road Texans, not great, not terrible, but they've allowed some catches. They've allowed 21 receptions to the tight end spot and have allowed 1 touchdown. But he's a guy, if you're getting targeted 8 times a game, Desmond Ritter's definitely looking for him. Desmond Ritter's going to have to check the ball down. I know our Drake London owners are not going to be too happy about that, but right. Bijan's the guy. But Jonnu Smith has gotten quite a bit of run at tight end, and you know he's a guy that he still might be available in leagues depending on what you need. I think I plucked him as in maybe one of my 12 teamers as my bye week fill in this week. So guy that if he's out there, grab him. If he's got a bench spot, I mean, you could do a lot worse. Like we talked about how ugly the running back spot is. I'm always an advocate. If you wanted to flex that second tight end, especially in a deeper league, he's not a bad guy to put in that flex spot.
Not at all. And, you know, we kind of track the 1 week wonders, and I don't remember putting Jonnu Smith down, but I don't think he had a huge week, whatever it was in week 2. But yeah, it's been really interesting because when I saw Jonnu Smith there, I'm like, oh, he's 11th. He must have had a big game that I missed. And then I realized, wait a minute, he's 75% consistent. Yeah. That's amazing, especially with Kyle Pitt owners, which I am not one, and I'm very proud of that.
Not either.
Very proud of that. I just could not buy the hype, and still not. Maybe Kyle Pitts will be a god someday. I know he'll go somewhere and just set the world on fire. Maybe he'll replace Travis Kelce when he gets married to Taylor Swift. The guy I'm going to talk about is another surprise who's and Jonnu Smith's 11th in total points. I wanted to bring that up too. It's not like he's, I said, had one big game. He's top 12 in points too. So, but at number 8 in points is Jake Ferguson from the Dallas Cowboys, who I also believe was not drafted by anybody unless they played for the Cowboys. 8th in total points, 3 straight. So 3 out of 4 now after his first week clunker of 2 catches for 11 yards. But all of a sudden, Dak is throwing the ball to a tight end again. Like I don't know if he's having visions of this guy being Jason Witten or Dalton Schultz or something. But all of a sudden now we're throwing the ball all the time to Ferguson, and he's been getting tons of targets. And catches keep going up each week. 3 catches week 2, 5 catches week 3. Last week 7 for 77. He's only got 1 touchdown, and that was his first clutch game against the Jets. Well, we had 3 catches. Had 3 catches for 11 yards, but the touchdown put him over the 10-point scenario. But yeah, last week 7 for 77 with CeeDee Lamb. I know Brandon Cooks has been out. Michael Gallup's been filling in. So when all 3 of those guys, Cooks, Gallup, and Lamb, are all in the field, will that tail off? Maybe, but right now, definitely ride the high until something else happens. But yeah, Jake Ferguson seems to be doing very well. And this week we'll be playing against San Francisco at San Francisco. So, I have a feeling Dak probably will be throwing to Ferguson quite a bit again this week. So definitely keep him in that lineup, even though San Francisco has got a very good defense. But I think they'll need him very much. Your thoughts?
No, I agree with everything you said there. The only thing that makes me sad about your analysis there is the fact that I have Brandon Cooks so many places. And I know it seems like he was out. He's only missed 1 game. The other games, I don't know where he's been, but he's definitely not been producing numbers. Yeah, but he might as well have not been in there. And I'd love to see him get going, man, because we love Brandon Cooks on this show. And we talked about him for years now, and he's just not fitting in that offense, man. I don't know what's going on. But, a lot of that could be because of the emergence of Jake Ferguson. But I think it's going to be a tough week, but I think the targets are still going to be there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Ron, to everybody where they can find you out on the Twitter machine and what everything you guys been doing on Big Guy Fantasy Sports site.
At Ron Rigney on X. Here again, told you we lost a little bit of cash last week. We're going to try to get back on that winning track this week. I think it's going to be you and I this week trying to get back on the winning track. Colby's not getting a clutch game this week, so that's okay. We're going to put him on the IR just for this week. I'm sure he'll be back in week 6.
Right.
But here again, always want you to come in, check out all of our friends at BigGuyFantasySports.com. We got guys producing all kinds of great stuff over there. And last but not least, your random football card of the week. Have had this card since I was 12 years old. Not worth a lot, but was stoked when I got it. Desmond Howard, classic football, 1992. I didn't see it, but at one time the holder was clear. Now it's yellow because it's got a little age on it. But boy, if you got this card in a pack, man, you were doing all right. And I pulled one with him spinning the football here, the Heisman Trophy winner that year. So 92 classic Desmond Howard. Love that thing, even though it's probably worth about 5 cents.
The with the plastic though, maybe another.
Well, since it's yellow, it might only put it up to about 6, maybe 7.
Yeah, that's true. It might. Yeah, I get it. All right, everybody. I'm Bob at _Lung on Twitter. As always, you can find me here. All like Ron said, all the great stuff. Probably like it's hot. We're still hot. We're 20-6 now. We went 4-2, which is actually still our worst week. Pretty fun when you can say that your worst week is 4-2. We did that twice, week 1 and week 4. So just continue that hot streak this week, and we can't wait for those this weekend. And again, like Ron said, everybody's got lots of great stuff. Robbie, Prue, Patel, James Knight, Dan Turner, and Taco Tuesday. Steve Gonzalez. I couldn't think of his name. I just knew it's like Taco something. Anyway, everybody check out Big Guy Fantasy Sports. Once again, for Ron Rigney, I'm Bob Lung. Everybody have a great week. Stay consistent. God bless. We'll see you soon.